on to our next segment, which is asking a different question, say what, to some hot topics going on in politics. And the first one that I wanted to lead with, to continue just with some of the inauguration talk, we posted it earlier on the Know This Twitter. It was my personal favorite moment that I admit I've watched probably 10 to 15 times, was the First Lady throwing a little shade to John Boehner in the most fantastic way ever. So I know we're going to get to the nitty-gritty, but I just really had to highlight that. Did you all catch that video? Yeah. That was just, I didn't think I could love her anymore. How did you all feel about when you saw that?
I don't know that it was necessarily shade. I felt like it was more, I don't know if they were in conversation, or I don't know if they were
It started with the tap. It started with the tap that was, with the elbow up, that was just like, don't touch me like that. And I didn't appreciate it. When I saw it, I was like, really? Do you know her like that? You're just going to tap her shoulder?
They're on like public television. I'm like, I wonder if this is really what it seems, but
even if it's not, it was a great moment.
Oh yeah, I love the gist.
And I don't feel like it really it said anything negative about Michelle. I didn't read it that way at all. It was just
I guess that's my thing. Is Michelle is she's image conscious, just as Barack is. So she knows what she projects.
Yes.
She's very conscious of the fact that people will read into it as a black woman, as a first black first lady, everything that she says. So I wonder what John Boehner had to say for her
to just lose
and roll her eyes that way. That's what I'm curious about.
Yes, that's definitely, people were just kind of wondering, like, really, because Obama laughed on the side, and so I mean he knows how to, and he has to talk with dude every day, so I'm sure he's just used to letting it roll off the back, and Michelle's the one that's just like, oh
And to be fair, the other interpretation that I saw of what that moment really was that she was rolling her eyes at the two of them talking, like whatever they were talking about behind her, like, oh, boys club. So that's the other interpretation of what really happened, but I prefer that shade.
Yes.
Well, and just kind of asserting her place, like saying, hey, wait a second, like, regardless of how you view me, this, I'm gonna make it be known.
Yes.
I am the first lady.
It might have been that.
And I'm more popular than the both of you anyway.
So come on, I don't have time for this. I don't have the time for this.
Oh yeah, little Kerry Washington.
The thing that was the other big story.
Yes, all the fashion that was going on. A second mini Say What topic before, again, the first dive into the second term agenda, was something I noticed, and I mentioned again when we were staying on the mall, is wondering kind of what happened to Asian Americans and Native Americans in any of the addresses, really. I felt like the list conveniently stopped at kind of like black, white, Latino, and it was just kind of like, I was like, oh, where are the, it was just something that popped in my mind. Did anybody else?
Asian Americans are probably lucky that they weren't included in this, because simply because when they are, it's usually about bombing one of their countries. So let's say they're kind of lucky they weren't included.
Interesting.
Well, that said it all.
Okay. And all right, so we'll take that into. I mean, that has to do with bringing in a second-term agenda and kind of where we do want to be going with policies and politics. And I do want to hear everybody's opinions on that. So. As we kind of touched on earlier, Obama set out a very ambitious progressive agenda in his speech, which we know speeches are speeches, and so it wasn't specifics, but he touched on preserving healthcare reforms, women and gay rights, immigration, climate change, gun control, taxes, helping the middle class. He addressed those all in some form or fashion, and it's given our current Congress and how things are going, it'll be interesting to see how this rolls out. What did you all think about the agenda that you've been hearing laid out in the news, and what would you have him focus on? And you think, knowing that he's probably not going to be able to get through everything, what do you think should be the priority going forward, and why? Alicia, we can start with you.
Well, I know we were chatting about this, and originally my answer was going to be, you said three things: comprehensive immigration reform.
Yes.
And I'm cheating. So, but no, I mean, I think, you're right, that the president did a good job of kind of doing a preview, and in a few weeks we're going to hear a State of the Union and kind of hear a little bit more details. But again, I think definitely by and large, immigration reform is a must, and it has to happen sooner than later. There's a small window of opportunity to move on that, and that I think is going to be the next kind of big thing the administration is going to move with. definitely a jobs package, job creation. I mean, there's been a lot of kind of fluff and narrative around what that would look like, but I think in the midst of all of this, you know, fiscal cliff and debt ceiling and all of these debates, you know, really I think the meat of all of that is really looking at how do we put people back to work in good, meaningful jobs. So that's something that, you know, obviously I focus a lot on, and I'm really eager to hear some more of, you know, what the president plans to do and some strategies to really move forward. And then climate change, you know, and I was really pleased to hear that he addressed, or at least made a nod to the fact that that is an area that, you know, we have continued, it's that issue, right, the can that we keep on kicking down the road that really also impacts disproportionately communities of color. So I would say for me, those are kind of the three that I've been keeping my eye on, and I'm eager to hear kind of, you know, what the president has in store, but then more importantly, to really mobilize and engage our communities on these issues, to make sure that, you know, we're not just waiting for politicians to knock on our door to ask for our vote.
Michael, what do you think? What were you prioritize?
For his legacy, he has to do something on guns. That he has to move on that forcefully and quickly to do something on guns. But like Alicia asked, I feel like climate change, I was very happy to hear him address climate change, because that's the one, like, we don't have time. Like, we are running out, we ran out of time 10 years ago, and we have to move on that now. And that addresses energy concerns, that's jobs. We have to move on climate change right now. And, immigration reform is coming in some form, because it's kind of the, you know, I owe the Latinos on this one kind of thing. But, you know, it's, I think climate change for me is 1, 2, and 3. Like, we have to move on that quickly.
I'm going to push back a little bit on it just being like a Latino issue and politically smart for the Obama administration to take on immigration reform. I really think that, yes, there were a lot of folks that came out to vote like in favor of immigration reform, in favor of issues that impact communities of color, specifically low-income and middle-income communities. But I feel like the reason why immigration has taken such a step forward in like since the election is that I think it's going to be a point of distinction between, or it's going to sort of set like what the difference is between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, right? It's like you have all of these communities that are emerging, that are coming up in the United States, that I think are really challenging what the definition of what it is to be an American is, right? And immigration is one of those policy issues that the administration can act on that sort of sets a standard for, this is what it means to be an American, whether you're black, whether you're brown, whether you're, whatever you are, that's going to be, I think, politically how he's going to approach the issue, is he's going to make it about what it means to be an American and why we need to address issues that impact communities of color.
And would you put that as one of your top things that you want to see?
I would definitely put
that.
I would definitely put that as one of the things.
You sound very passionate about it.
And I think he's already taken action to sort of address the issue of immigration. Last year and in the first few weeks of this year, and I think that it's going to be something that I hope will be the focus of the next term.
Okay, good. What about you, Ariana?
I'm glad you asked me last, because I'm going to cheat. Well, and here's why. I mean, I'm excited for all of these issues. I really am. But I think I'm more excited about an approach this term. I think a lot of the issues that he brought up yesterday are not new, right? These are issues that have strong, questionably thriving, but at least existing movements behind them. These are issues that have come up in the national conversation over and over and over again. I think the difference between now and 4 years ago was his need to preserve, aside from the economy, was his need to preserve political capital, right? And so there was this kind of very strategic, tactical, and very cautious approach to any issue that he selected, any issue that he chose. We know what he did with healthcare reform, that he kind of banked his presidency on that in the beginning, and that was, you know, we're gonna go balls to the wall, sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but all around healthcare reform, right, like this is the one thing, and what I'm excited about, if this speech is any indication, is that it seems like he's going to really go balls to the wall now with all of them.
Yeah.
And again, I understand the political realities. I understand that we will not accomplish them all at the same time. But this idea of an approach that says, you know what, I promised all these things. This is my legacy, and I've got 4 years to get this done. So I'm going to at least try it all.
Yeah.
And that seemed to be the energy, whether it's because he owes different constituencies. I mean, we haven't mentioned gay rights up here, but God knows. I mean, there are many communities that at this point are feeling like, we're ready, right? This is an idea for whose time has come, but we can say that on all of these issues.
Totally.
Yeah.
There's a sense of urgency there, so I'm excited about an approach that says, you know what, we're going to at least make some level of progress and movement on all of these in an authentic way.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the commentary and feedback that I was reading from that, particularly from Republicans, was like, you know, we were hoping that it would be more, you know, the speech would be more inclusive. You know, his first speech was kind of that, you know, for those that didn't vote for me, I'm still, you know, there was an emphasis on making sure that he was kind of reassuring that. And this time it was kind of just like, I'm going straight to the people because I know they agree, you know, the majority opinion is in my favor. And I tried that last time. You all weren't really down for it. So in the same way that he was kind of going out with the tax issue and just kind of saying, all right, instead of debating you all because you all can't have an adult conversation, I'm going to go campaign with the people and go directly to them. So it's kind of like that. This message was also kind of taking that approach straight to them and not worrying about his Republican colleagues in that sense.
And not to get too inside the beltway, but the other thing that excites me about that is the kind of evolution, I don't know if everyone knows, but the evolution of OFA, Organizing for America, which is now, you know, what is this, its third iteration, but it's Organizing for Action is the name now, but hopefully this time it'll live up to what a lot of organizers and progressives wanted it to be the first time, which was this body of people who are ready and willing to advocate and organize on behalf of these issues. And so I think if you can add to his own agenda this better functioning kind of organizing mechanism, I think we'll actually see a lot of progress.